Welcome to Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. Our service today is called Lean on Me, Membership Sunday. Good morning. I am the Reverend Dr. Suzanne Intriligator. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Here at Melrose UU, we strive to be a spiritual community for this time, for our time, to honor diverse theological perspectives and to remember that issues of justice and equity shape all that we do. We welcome your whole self to worship this morning as we build together a community of caring, courage, and hope. Helping me with worship this morning is our worship technician, Josh Miller, and our chat box host, Ann Newton. And if you will, please drop in the chat box right now the link to the welcome page on our website. New folks and visitors can go there to learn more about us and to sign in on our digital guest book. Please feel free, everyone, to stay afterward for our virtual coffee hour so that we can get to know one another better. Our church building, where I now stand, sits on lands that are home to the Massachusetts people. We are working to address our history and to create an ongoing relationship of accountability with our Native sisters and brothers. To learn more about current Native issues in our state, follow the Massachusetts Indigenous Agenda, which we do. And we'll put that link in the chat now if you want to learn more. And now our current church president, Dan Griscom, has a special invitation for you. Dan, are you there?
Hello, everyone. It's a beautiful spring day, and to celebrate the waning pandemic, we are having an informal get-together at Pine Banks Park at the south end of Melrose. We have a picnic spot reserved from 2 to 4 p.m. today, so come with chairs and masks and we'll all catch up. If you need more info, see the last midweek update or contact me. See you there.
Thanks so much, Dan. If all goes smoothly today with our meeting at Pine Banks, we'll repeat this gathering, we hope, next Sunday afternoon and the week after. And that one, our third meeting at Pine Banks, should be really special. On Sunday, May 16th at 2 p.m., we'd love you to join us, or as many of you as possible, to celebrate Zayden and Julia, our 2021 high school graduates. On that day in Pine Banks Park, we will stage a bridging ceremony for them to send them off into their future. And we'll take lots of photos and videos, which we'll show here in worship the following week, Sunday, May 23rd. Please, if you're going to come join us, make a homemade card or two for Julia and Zayden and bring it there on the 16th, or email me a photo of it and you'll be included. Let's send them off with love. Here's one last announcement. It's about Zoom and our Zoom meetings. I just found out recently that you can get simultaneous, free, and pretty good closed captioning in all Zoom meetings. Josh is going to go ahead and turn it on now, please. And I will just give you a quick instruction as to how to use it. So everybody's Zoom is slightly different depending on your device, but along the bottom edge, I have participants and chat and share screen. Next to that, I have a box with CC in it and the words live transcript. So look and see if you have that too. If you click on that now, and then click on show subtitle, you should see subtitles coming through on your screen. If you want the words to be bigger, you should see subtitle settings. Click on that, and at the top you'll see a slider where you can make the words bigger. If you're having any trouble at all making that work, you can send me an email and I will do a Zoom with you later this week and help you get set up. Also, feel free to text or email our friend Dan Griscom, the tech guru, and he can help you with that too. Folks, today we start up a new worship theme. In May, we'll be exploring the theme of story. What is your story and how does it get told? The writer Terry Pratchett says, change the story, change the world. Today, we'll be celebrating and reshaping the story of our congregation. For today is Membership Sunday, the day we take time out to celebrate membership itself. Today, we have two people marking their 10th anniversary of membership and two people marking 25 years. 25 years, wow. We will hear directly from those members about the meaning they make of membership here. And in addition to that, we have 3 new members to welcome and swear in Isn't that exciting? Plus, today we've got 2 special pieces of music made by members and friends of our congregation. So it'll be a fun Sunday. Thanks for joining us. Let's get going by seeing who's here with us this morning. It's time to switch to gallery view and scroll through the windows, wave and say hi, and welcome people to worship this morning. Hey, everybody. Oh, look at that. I see lots of smiling faces. Yay. And I think our new members are here. I was just trying to make sure everybody's here, so we're ready. Lots of participation today. Hi. Oh, look. Lots of folks here. Well, welcome. Thank you for joining us. And thanks for the waves and the smiles. It's wonderful to be with you this morning. Our call to worship was written by the Reverend Dr. David Breeden. Welcome to a new story. Welcome to a day that is unwritten. We gather to speak of possibility, to remember the losses, and to celebrate the victories. As a people of story, we embrace the possible over the probable, weaving together a story of hope. Join us in this new story. Join us in the day unwritten. Join us in the future of possibility. Now, along with UUs everywhere, I light the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. As I do so, I invite you to light a candle in your home, perhaps the one that you got from our caring team recently. This morning, our chalice lighting reading will be given by Florence Cordovano, who serves on our worship committee. Florence, are you there?
I am.
Go ahead.
We tender this flame, opening the book, turning to a page yet to be written, opening a story yet to be told. May we fill this fresh page wisely. May we write a new story into being. May we together inscribe the page with hope.
Hooray. And to get us going with our opening hymn, here's our music director, Tara Tresner-Kirsch.
Good morning. Our opening hymn is Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Please join me and the choir in singing. We will first start with one time in unison, and then the choir will lead us in a round.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, brother of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again, come. Come, yet again, come. Come, yet again, come.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tara. Let us join together in the words of our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God.
From all that dwell
time for our story. Our Director of Religious Education, Katie Campbell, tells us The Broken Story by Christina Leone Tracy.
This is a story about a man with story. A story about stories, if you will. Once upon a time, there was a man with a story. This wasn't any old once upon a time story, not one you could find on a bookshelf or hear around the campfire. This was his story, and no one else's. This story had been carefully crafted. It began before he was born, and this story told of his loves and fears, his dreams realized, and his dreams yet to come. This story was complete. It told his whole life, including those bits that still existed in his imagination. In fact, this story was so complete, and he was so happy with his story that he carried it around to make sure it was safe. It was somewhat bulky and unwieldy, but he didn't mind. It was his story. The thing about this story was, it was very fragile, made up of many pieces and held together by only his own imagination. He was worried it might break apart at any minute, and so he grew more and more protective of his story. He held it even closer. As he went about his life, he checked on the story to make sure he was following it correctly. He avoided adventure and unknowns because, well, they might break his story. And then one day, the inevitable happened. Without warning, his story broke. It was unforeseen, and he hadn't done anything wrong at all. But there it was, laying in 1,000 shattered pieces on the ground. With the sunlight glinting off the bits of story he had so carefully protected for all those years. He was heartbroken. And since his story hadn't said to put the pieces back together, he was at a loss. What now? He sat down next to the pile of pieces and cried. A while later, maybe it was minutes, maybe it was hours, a group of people came out of the nearby building and saw him sitting on the sidewalk by a pile of broken pieces, clearly in need of help. "What happened here?" the woman asked. "My story, it's gone. I worked so hard to build it, to protect it, to keep it from harm, and now it's gone. Gone," he wailed. "Is this the story here?" a man asked. "Yes, look at it. There's nothing left." "It looks like it's here, not gone," said a child. "We just have to put it back together." "Put it back together? There's no way. You don't even know what it looked like. How will you put it back together if you don't even know me?" The child was tenacious. "Don't worry. With all of us here to help, we'll put it back together in a way that you would never even expect. You never know. It might be more beautiful than before." And so they swept up the pieces of this man's story carefully and went together into the building from which they had emerged. They poured him some hot coffee and sang a song he had never heard before. Something about coming again and again, though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. The song was soothing, and the coffee was warm. He began to feel hope again, that his story could be put back together. And it took a long time. Maybe it was days, maybe it was years, but they got it all back together, and they added new parts. And some old parts didn't fit anymore, but that was okay. The child had been right. It was more beautiful than before. And this time, the story was held together not only by his imagination, but the imagination and support of an entire community. It wasn't nearly so fragile. And it even allowed for adventure.
Thank you, Katie. We know it's important to take time at least every week to find some quiet, to breathe deeply, and to feel a connection between our minds and our bodies and our hearts. We take time in worship every Sunday to center ourselves and listen for the holy. To begin our meditation time together, first we'll join in our centering song, which for the month of May is "This is Home." After we sing, we sit together for a few minutes of shared silence. Then we will speak to one another of our joys and sorrows, and I will lead us in a meditation. Please now settle into your chair and breathe with me. Here's our centering song.
Good morning. Our centering song will be repeat after me. I will start and Beth Harris will echo. I invite you to sing with Beth. I have also posted the lyrics in the chat in case that is helpful to you, but again, it's repeat after me. So let's take a big breath and begin. This is home.
This is home,
Where I belong.
where I belong.
In this breath.
In this breath,
In this heart.
in this heart.
This is home.
This is home,
Where I belong.
where I belong.
In this voice.
In this voice,
In this song.
in this song.
And now we share the joys and sorrows of our lives so that we might learn to listen to one another and to hold with care one another's stories. First, if you have a sorrow to share with us today, please type it into the chat box and I will read them aloud. I don't see any sorrows there today. There may be many among us that we don't wish to speak. Let us take a moment to honor all sorrows. If we know of someone hurting today, let us reach out with support and help. I now light one candle as a beacon of care for all the sorrows spoken and unspoken today.
Excuse me, Reverend Suzanne, Cheryl has written a candle of sorrow, thinking of Chris's mom, who is still in hospice care. And Adrian says, please hold the family of a sweet girl so treasured in the Melrose schools who passed, known as Amazing Grace.
Thank you, Anne. I don't know why that didn't show up for me, but I really appreciate you helping me with that. For Chris's mom and for Amazing Grace. And now I ask for all the joys that you'd like to share. Type those into the chat box so I can read them. From Anne. Oh, first from Jean. Let's go in order so I don't find any more. Even Anne and Doug before that. From Anne and Doug, celebrating the birth of a great nephew, Elijah Douglas, on Friday, and our 37th wedding anniversary coming on Wednesday. From Jean, joy, got my second dose of the COVID vaccine, done and done. From Ann Noon, and a candle of joy, UMass Amherst unexpectedly called their commencement ceremonies back on. I get to see my baby graduate. That's wonderful, Anne. From Gretchen, a candle of good wishes for our son Duncan, who starts a new job tomorrow as a chemist in a lab in Woburn. From Martha, a joy. We visited our 1-month-old grandson Jasper last week in Brooklyn, and also my 93-year-old father-in-law in New Jersey. From Dan, Dan Griscom, the pandemic is slowly waning, and although normality isn't here yet, at least it's in sight. From Mary Hildebrand, visited my Texas daughter and her family, 2 granddaughters last week. Very sick with a cold now, but worth it to hold those babies. Any other joys out there? Maybe one I missed. All right, seeing none, I move us to our prayer. Just a moment of thanks. Thank you. By sharing these joys, you connect us and you rekindle our hope. I now light one more candle to shine out our thanks for all the many blessings in our lives. Please join me, if you would, in the spirit of meditation. Friends, for more than 170 years now, our congregation has gathered regularly in various forms to read and study, to ponder the great mysteries of life, to care for one another, and to build enduring connections and an abiding sense of community. We have gathered in different buildings under different names: Universalist, Unitarian, First Parish Melrose, and then the UU. And now we gather again differently in a virtual container here online, yet another chapter in our story. Our story evolves with each who joins, each who learns, each who grows up, each who marries, each who dies. Like a river flowing through time, our congregation moves ever forward, always new, always renewing. May you too rest beside these rushing waters. May they cool you and refresh you and carry you along toward our shining future. Amen. Now is the time for our offertory. I've been asked to remind you that we are, in fact, a self-supporting community organization. We receive no outside funding at all. In fact, we pay our denomination, not the other way around. My salary and all our expenses come from your pledging. That's why it's so important. In addition to your pledge commitment, you may also contribute to our collection plate, which goes around in person every week and here online, and we split it with a deserving cause each month. For May, our giving partner, which was chosen by our high school youth group, is Housing Families, which helps homeless folks in the nearby town of Malden. This month, half of our collection plate will go to Housing Families. If you're moved by our worship, I invite you to donate using the orange button in the top right corner of our homepage at melroseuu.org. And now onto our offertory music. The pandemic has changed so much about how we live, including how we worship. And some of those changes have been positive and life-affirming, like the fact that thanks to Zoom, we are able to invite in and worship together with old friends and faraway family members. For example, since we went online last March, Dave and Kathy Folzer, who moved to North Carolina, have been able to worship with us again every week. It's so great to see them here. And my mother and my sister have joined us every week from their homes in Kentucky. To mark and celebrate the richness of all these many new connections, we have today a gorgeous instrumental piece for our offertory music, performed by my wonderful brother-in-law, William Intriligator, who also often joins us for worship here on Sundays. In fact, I saw him here a little earlier. He may be here now. A pianist and an oboist, William is also an orchestral conductor. He is the conductor and music director of two professional orchestras, those of the cities of Cheyenne, Wyoming, and Dubuque, Iowa. Today, the maestro shares with us a performance he taped in his living room in Wisconsin. The music comes from the classic 1986 film, The Mission, which was one of the most important films about religion ever made. This song is called Gabriel's Oboe by Ennio Morricone. So beautiful. That song is like a prayer in itself. Now onto our reading for this morning. From the Buddhist teacher, David Loy. We do not experience a world and afterward make up stories to understand it. Stories teach us what is real, what is true, and what is possible. They are not abstractions from life, though they can be that. They are necessary for our engagement with life. As the Scottish philosopher Alistair MacIntyre put it, I can only answer the question, what am I to do, if I can answer the question, of what story or stories do I find myself a part? So, of what stories do I find myself a part? What a great question. Well, certainly, if you are here with us in this Zoom room this morning, you are part of the story of this congregation, all of you. And what is that story? What does it teach us about what is real and true and possible? Let me start by telling you a little story. A funny thing happened to me this week. A friend of mine posted this image on their Facebook timeline. Thank you, Josh. And they added the words, "Caption this, would you?" One of the first people to respond said something like, "Can you believe it snowed again in April?" Grumble, grumble, grumble. And if I'm being honest, the grumbles were actually swear words. And that answer got a lot of likes and loves and laughing faces. But then another person, a UU minister, suggested this caption. "Pooh, I am tired. Can we do that thing where you carry me and then there's only one set of footprints?" Sure, we'll take turns. And I laughed out loud at that too. Because that person, that second person, the UU minister, was making a great joke too. She was referencing that old trope about a person who is walking with God along a beach, and the person asks, "But God, what about when there was only one set of footprints in the sand? Those were my darkest hours. Why did you abandon me?" And God answers, "No, that was when I carried you." So this UU minister is transferring or transposing a story about God onto a story about friendship. That classic story we grew up with, many of us, about Pooh and Piglet, about how they are always together, companioning one another through all kinds of adventures and caring for one another in that gentle way, no matter what. And because I was working on this service, it made me think about church, about the story of our church, the one that I like to tell, the one that I hope in the telling helps to make more real, more possible. A story about us carrying one another, caring for one another, no matter what. This morning, Katie told us another story about stories. It concerned a man who told himself a certain story about his life, about how it was going to go, what was going to happen, how he would accomplish things, and how it would all unfold. A story he cherished and held very tightly. And of course, it didn't work out that way. In fact, it all fell apart and he was bereft and incapacitated. And that's also like church, isn't it? So many of us come here when our stories have fallen apart, when life hasn't turned out the way we planned, when divorce or death or disappointments have drained the meaning from our lives, or what we thought was the meaning. And then we find here something new and different. In Katie's story, it's a kid who points out, "Hey, it's okay. Your story is still here. We still have all the pieces. We can put it back together." And they did that. And the story, of course, went back together in a way the man could never have anticipated, and it became even more beautiful. Today, instead of hearing any more about the story of this congregation from me, we are going to hear from the members themselves, folks who are joining today and those who have been here in this place, doing the work for 10 years and 25 years and keep coming back. We will hear their pieces of our common story. And along with that, I will invite you to consider, what is your story of our story? First, the 10-year anniversaries. Today, Mark Viola and Aaron Hoban Audette celebrate 10 years of membership in our church. Yay, 10 years. We'll cheer for them in just a little while. Mark couldn't join us this morning. He couldn't speak, but Aaron agreed to share some reflections on what membership has meant in her life. Aaron, are you there?
I am, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So growing up, the idea of church to me was a big building that my parents dragged my brother and I to every Sunday, and not much more than that. But in the past 10 years, I've come to know that church isn't the building. It's our shared stories and our support for one another. And I don't have one church story, I have dozens of church stories, or maybe even hundreds. And I'm guessing that this is the same for all of you. One of my earliest stories is with Amy Morrison, who opened the nursery to keep Tyler, who was 3 or 4 at the time, this was long before we were members, so that I could peruse the tables at the alternative fare. My story is the first service we ever attended, which I didn't particularly care for. It was a Beatles themed service that in hindsight, I'm sure was amazing, but was so foreign to my understanding and experience of what church was. I grew up Catholic, that I couldn't wait to leave that day. But 5.5-year-old Tyler wanted to come back. He regrets this now. And so we came back, and we came back again and again. And before I knew it, we weren't coming to him for church for him anymore. We were coming for me. My story is Nancy Nichols, who had literally just met at the women's retreat, driving me to an eye doctor appointment that same week because Sean was out of town. My story is the hundreds of hours spent with Eric, Dan, Randall, Dan, Kathy, and Carol as members of the ministerial search committee. My story is Ann Noonan taking Zoe to summer camp a few summers ago and co-hosting cottage meetings with Patricia Ferris and talking to Janice Bissix about therapies to help my dad's Parkinson's and walks with Gosha Nup in the early days of the pandemic and virtual trivia events with Mary Beth Griscom throughout the past year and Beth Cochran and Kelly Whalen inviting Zoe and I to pick raspberries in their yard last July. And dozens and dozens and dozens of other stories, large and small, that I don't have time to share here today. As has been made so clear to me in the past year, our church is not about the building, though I do look forward to getting back there. Our church is us. Thank you for being part of my story and for letting me be a part of yours throughout the past 10 years. And I look forward to the stories that we still have yet to write. Thank you.
Erin, that was beautiful. Thank you. Today, we also have 2 members marking their 25-year anniversaries of membership. 25 years with us. They are Jean Tay and Jane Foley. Now, if you know Jean, you know that she does a lot of stuff around here, and she doesn't like to appear on camera. So speaking on their behalf this morning is Jane Foley. Jane?
Good morning. I'm glad I get to speak about 25 years of commitment today on the 25th anniversary of my first date with Chuck. I started coming to MUUC 28 years ago when I moved into an apartment 3 doors up West Emerson Street. My sister and her family were attending at that time, and she suggested that I roll out of bed and go to church some Sunday morning, so I did. I wasn't a stranger to the UU faith, having spent most of my child and young adulthood at the First Parish Church in Malden. So when I started coming here, I had a general idea of what to expect, that there would be committees, and I should probably be on one, that UUs tended to be nice, and I needed to be around nice people, that I could bring my whole self to the church, divorced, with only a high school education and a longing for more than the life I was living, and that my whole self would be welcomed, and I was. So that's the beginning of my MUUC story. That's my once upon a time part. But as the story continues, it becomes not just my story anymore. It is the story of us and my part in it, of working together on committees and fairs and auctions and teaching and cleaning and digging into pockets and doing all the things that make this church run. It's the story of those who have left us in body, but not in spirit, because they are with us still, like in Joe Gould's chocolate cake, just yesterday baked by me, who loved her dearly and delivered to a church family who never knew her. And it is the story of connection in small ways and big, like the moment my growing friendship with Jean Tay, who shares this 25th membership anniversary with me and has been coming to MUUC for 30 years, the moment that blossomed into a sisterhood, the day I accidentally called her a goof instead of a good friend. And the connections I've made here turned out to be the most meaningful part of my life. Meeting Chuck at coffee hour, developing bonds during women's retreats, classes, worship, protests, and potluck dinners, and receiving loving care and help upon the arrival of the infant, now young woman, who is Julia. All of the moments, big and small, that allow us to learn together, grow together, lean on each other, and love together. That's the story of us. Now, as my wife's friend, my goof, shared with me, she writes, the best part about being in this church community is the multi-generational aspect of it. We are 9 days old, we are 90 years old, we are everything in between. There are lessons to be learned from everyone, regardless of age, and we do all of this together. We laugh and meditate and cry and sing and play and pray. We say please, we say thank you. We ask, how are you doing today? And we really mean it, especially if you're Alan Gramenstein. We take turns. We share what we have. We help without being asked and without seeking praise. We seek justice and harmony by marching, writing postcards, making signs, and by listening and learning from others. We make art. We organize pledge drives. We paint walls. We make coffee. We sing. We wash dishes. We put away chairs. We do all of this and more as one big, imperfect, rambunctious, caring family of all ages, for all ages. And one day soon, we will, as the hymn goes, gather to celebrate once again. I can't wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. That was so beautiful. We're so lucky to have members like Jane and Erin, aren't we? This past pandemic year has been tough, no doubt, and it's also brought us some blessings. It's helped us to see more clearly what really matters in life. As I said earlier, many folks have come to visit us this year, and of those, 3 have chosen to make a commitment to become members of this community, to join their stories with the story of this congregation. So let's introduce them and get to know them. First is Sandra Brown. She is babysitting grandchildren today, so earlier in the week, we taped a 3-minute interview with her. Here's Kathy Sang introducing us to Sandra Brown.
Sandy, welcome to MUUC, and would you share with us a little bit about your background, where you were born and raised, and your path to MUUC?
Okay, so actually I was born in Dundee, Scotland, and immigrated here with my parents when I was about 3. Grew up in Cambridge and then moved to Melrose with my family once I got married and brought my family up here in Melrose. And actually I remember as my kids were growing up, visiting the library often and looking across the street at that church, thinking how cute and quaint it was. It just reminded me of the churches out in Western Mass. And looking at that church gave me a warm feeling.
How do you fill your days?
How do I fill my day?
Yeah, what's your interest? What are your hobbies and interests?
So I like hiking and nature walks. I like good books, good art, good theater, good music, and good food.
And family is very important to you.
100%, without saying, yes.
Yeah. I know you've got lots of family right here in town.
Yes, my family, my parents moved to Melrose actually when I was just entering high school, and I'm the oldest, so there's 6 of us that still live in Melrose or are very nearby.
Yeah,
very
and
close.
Grandchildren as well.
Yes, my son and daughter-in-law live in Melrose and have 3 grandchildren that I take care of during the week mostly. And I have a son who just moved to Wilmington, and he's about to get married in October.
Right. So I know you've just been with us, in even a year, maybe started last summer. What have you found that you like most about MUUC so far and that drew you into membership?
Well, what drew me into membership was Nancy Gregory introducing me to you and you introducing me to Paul, and just the things that you had to say about the church, about Reverend Suzanne, and about the other members, and about the issues that they cared about, especially the social justice issues. And Suzanne, her warm sermons, her insights, her intellect, everything about Reverend Suzanne. And I did attend some of the coffee sessions after the services, and just found people to be just warm and kind and very caring and very real. And I liked that very much.
That's great. Well, hopefully this is the start of a long journey with us. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to getting to meet everybody in church.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sandy and Kathy. And now we're going to meet new member Damien Elrod. Longtime member Chuck Foley is here to help us learn more about Damien. They've got a little 3-minute interview set up. Let's hear from Chuck and Damien.
Good morning. I have the pleasure and the honor to introduce Damien this morning. I met Damien just about 2 years ago, and it was on the sad occasion of the passing of his mother, our longtime member, Reverend Dorothy Emerson. And during the course of helping and supporting with the arrangements involved with that, I met Damien, and this is a case where an occasion like that leads to valuable connections. And so I've been blessed with developing such a connection with Damien over the last 2 years, and happy to introduce him now. So Damien, as you have heard, we have a few questions. And the first of those is, please share with us a little about your background and where you grew up and your path to Melrose UU Church.
Damien, you're still muted, Damien. Can you unmute? We can't hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. This Zoom thing is, it's a learning progress, and I think that is a beautiful thing. I was introduced when my mom was in Unitarian seminary at Harvard Divinity School. Went to many churches. We belonged to Wakefield, Belmont. Watertown was really the first one that I felt a part of because I was in middle school, I think, and joined Wire UU, and it began a long-term love of the Unitarian community.
Thank you. And speaking of community, I think you've probably been finding that we all take an interest in each other's lives and care and about and support each other. And so toward that end, I'm sure we're all want to know a little bit about how you fill your days, whether it be work, hobbies, things of that sort.
Thank you. My profession is a registered nurse. First and foremost, I am a father of a 16-year-old, I can't believe I'm saying that, who is learning how to drive. And I love the weekly candles. I participate in them pretty regularly when I have something to share. It's a way that we affirm our community, both near and far. And the chalice is just a part of that too. It's that eternal flame. So yes, thank you.
Thanks. And now for our third question, which is really two questions, and they're pretty hard ones, I think. But what do you like best about MUUC, and why become a member?
That was nice how we snuck two questions in at the end there. Solace. I think that's what today's lean on me. That is what draws me to remain in the community, the solace that we all feel from being together, from being able to lean on each other in times of strength and in despair. Yeah, it was 2 years ago that my mom passed the day after Mother's Day, suddenly and unexpectedly, and that's how I met Reverend Suzanne. And I love coming every week to see her smiling face and to see all the community. So when it became time, when she suggested that this was new member time, it just seemed right. So I'm very pleased, and this is definitely in honor of my mom and who I am becoming. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and welcome to MUUC. And I'm sure everyone here, look forward to continuing to build community. Thank you.
Welcome, Damien. And now our last of our 3 new members, we've got Nancy Nichols here to interview Liz Meyer. Nancy and Liz, please.
And Liz. Do we have Liz? Yes. Can you hear me? Oh, hey, Liz. Good morning. Can you hear me?
I can, yes, I can.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm experimenting with a new webcam. So good morning and a warm welcome to MUUC membership. And you've already heard the questions, but I will go over them again. If you can just tell us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and your path to us here at MUUC.
Sure. So I am originally from Sudbury, but I only lived there until I was 6. My parents decided to become missionaries, medical missionaries to be precise, because my dad was a doctor. And so from a very young age, we lived in the Caribbean, a small island called Dominica. And then we moved to a remote town in Nepal. And so my younger formative years, I spent overseas and experiencing a world that is very different from this world. So we were under the Methodist Church, and coming back, I've kind of always dabbled in church, and pretty much the last time I think was in college, I kind of was half-hearted into church community. And long story short, I ended up moving to Melrose and sort of being committed to establishing roots. And I've been here for the last 10 years. And I have, in a very roundabout way, I became very interested in paganism. And I had no idea that the UU Church actually embraces that. And it kind of really brought both of my interests, my original roots in Christianity and my newfound interest in paganism, and brought those two together. And so hence I started coming to the UU Church and now becoming a member, which I'm very excited about.
Great. So how do you fill your days? I know that you work and you have family and hobbies, so that would fill up lots of days.
Yes. So career-wise has been a very challenging, I think because of sort of my missionary roots, it's been one of the more challenging and difficult things to kind of figure out. But I do fill my days with lots of different hobbies. I have furry kids. I have 3 furry kids. And so I have a dog that I walk a lot in the fells. And I do have a lot of hobbies. I love to sew. I love to knit. You'll see me sometimes out on the tennis courts playing tennis. I also have been involved in Zero Waste Melrose, and also Keep Melrose Beautiful, volunteering with them. And yeah, and I look forward to getting more involved with the church in various ways.
Wow, that's amazing. All the different things you're doing. That's great. So what do you like best about us, the MUUC? And I know you just joined on Friday, so that was a big decision. So tell us a little bit about what makes us so special for you and why you finally decided to become a member.
So I think the first and foremost is just the activism that the church is in the community in various ways, and has just been so inspiring. I know a couple of you from various ways from when I used to work at the fabric store, and I know Paul and Michelle from Zero Waste Melrose, and seeing their activism and immigration, and Chris and her art, and just various ways that people have used their talents and interests to be an active member for change in the community. And I have, I've dropped in a couple of times and talked to Suzanne, and I've just really enjoyed chatting with her and her warmth and her just getting to know more about the church. And I realized that it's a good fit for me. And yeah, and to tie into the story about our our stories from our past, I feel like I'm the opposite. I had this sort of very fragmented, dramatic story, and I look forward to kind of being part of a community to bring those pieces together, and yeah, to figure out what my next steps are, and to meet more of you, and for you all to get to know me better.
Well, we're so happy to have had you join us, and welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Liz. Thank you, Nancy. And thank you, Liz. Thank you, Damien. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you so much, Sandy Brown. Thank you for everybody who agreed to appear live today. That's very brave of you, but it was wonderful to get to know you. And now for our big swearing in ceremony, the moment you've all been waiting for. Due to the limitations of Zoom, only one person can read at a time. So Dan Griscom, the board president, will read on behalf of the congregation. Please feel free to join in at home in our congregational pledge. Then Damien will read the new member response on behalf of the 3 new members. Dan, are you there?
I am. We, the members and friends of Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church, welcome you as a newly signed member of this congregation. Grateful that you have chosen to carry on the legacy of our free faith and compassionate spirit, we join hearts and hands and covenant with you, one to another, in this unending quest for wisdom, humility, and love.
Mindful of truth, ever exceeding our knowledge, and the community ever exceeding our practice. Reverently, we covenant with you, beginning with ourselves as we are, to share the strength of integrity, the heritage of the Spirit, and the unending request for wisdom, humility, and love.
Yay, yay, hooray, hooray. Okay, so I think it's super exciting, and I think on the count of 3, we should all unmute and give a big cheer for our 3 new members and for our wonderful longtime members. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Welcome.
Thank you all. The story of this congregation is still unfolding with each new member, each phone call, each Zoom call, each meetup in the park. We make the story of this congregation true and real and possible. We make it a place of care and kindness and community, a place of challenge and inspiration and growth. Together, we hold the responsibility to write this story, to live this story, to build it according to our values. May we rise to the responsibility that we've chosen. May our faith guide us. May we become the story that we tell. Amen.